Hurricane Lisa set to make landfall on Belize this afternoon. So another hurricane in this Atlantic hurricane season, a rather late one, and possibly two right now with Martin as well. But this is Lisa, currently at 17.3 north, 86.9 degrees west, closing in quickly on Belize right now. And you can see it clearly on that satellite imagery. Category 1 with winds of 80 miles per hour according to our analyst team, and a pressure of 990 millibars, moving pretty much due west at 13 miles per hour, 275 degrees. And intensifying at this time. It could be a strong category 1 by the time we get to landfall, but it is going quicker than expected, so thankfully it looks like it shouldn't get to category 2. Here it is, the location displayed on the map, and the rather small wind field, particularly in the southwestern quadrant, but out in any direction it's only a maximum of 60 nautical miles in terms of its gale force wind radius. Hurricane warning in effect for Bay Islands and coastal Belize, and the distance is right now 63 kilometers from Northern Cay, 91 from Blackbird Key, 136 from Belize City, 194 from Belmopan, and 199 from Chetumal, Mexico, which is also, I think, under a hurricane warning. Tropical storm warnings also extending along the whole coast of Honduras and Guatemala and up as far as Punta Allen, Mexico. There are no watches in effect now, they are all warnings. The primary hazard is damaging winds, with hurricane conditions expected in those areas, spreading to the coast of Belize this afternoon. This will be accompanied by a storm surge of up to 7 feet near the landfall zone. Rainfall is also a concern, but the wind is a higher concern now. Rainfall maximums we're expecting between 6 and 10 inches, isolated maximums for Belize. And this is the forecast, a pretty straightforward one. There it is, moving inland, and very quickly the storm force winds will die off and it will dissipate completely probably by the weekend, although the National Hurricane Center thinks it will hang about a little bit longer as a tropical depression. That may happen, but it will be very weak in any case by the time we reach the end of the weekend. It will be in the Bay of Campeche for quite a while possibly, although it could get completely destroyed before then. There's National Hurricane Center cone. They're going with 75 miles per hour right now. Our team is slightly higher at 80 miles per hour. ADT got a lot of catching up to do there. They're only trailing near 60 miles per hour, so satellite imagery is not as convincing as direct observations from recon clearly, and that's why we have those stronger winds in the storm right now. Here's another view, the wind speed probabilities, and you can see that they are very high for the coast of Belize, Belize City. They're going to get tropical storm force winds, no doubt about it, and still extending into the Bay of Campeche, possibly up to 40% for some areas near a few of those areas, Coatzacoalcos I think it was, nearby. And this is the GFS forecast model showing not very much happening. GFS is really not keen on the storm hanging around after it makes landfall. That's one model that completely takes it off by the time we get to as soon as day 3 really, I think. There it is making landfall. It initializes it quite weak as well. It's certainly stronger than that, so I would suggest that obviously it has a better chance than that. Of course, the amount of time it spends over land will be quite critical, and if it goes a little bit further south, you can see the landmass there in the mountains. If it does go further south, then it gets closer to those higher elevations, which would disrupt it more. There's the reflectivity estimates from the GFS. Obviously this isn't really accurate, but you can take a look at what it's showing there, and once you see some of those red zones, that shows extremely high rain rates. Just watch again near the landfall. Yep, a few red zones there over Belize, the northern part of Belize. So we're looking at very high rain rates that can cause flash flooding more than the actual storm total. So you see 6 to 10 inches, which isn't very much compared to other storms, but it could still fall very quickly, and that would obviously put the land masses under real stress. Here is a graphic depicting that total rainfall amount over the whole Yucatan and the central part of America, and you can see getting towards yellow zones there, and that's up around 5 inches of rain total. That's just over 100 millimeters, but quite a few areas expecting to get 100 millimeters there. 4 inches near the landfall zone, yep, 4 or 5 inches, but don't forget the GFS resolution could be better, so it may be higher in isolated locations, especially on those mountains there in southeastern Mexico into Guatemala. You could get up to 5 inches there as well, even though it's further away from the storm. Sea surface temperatures ahead of this right now are still pretty decent, around 26 to 27, maybe a little area of 28 degrees just before landfall, but the storm's relatively quick movement will mean that it won't get the chance to rapidly intensify like other storms have in the past. People talking about Keith a lot in the last few days. That was moving much more slowly, so it had more of a chance. This storm is much more analogous to Richard in 2010, which made a Category 2 landfall and was moving rather quickly as well, and was intensifying all the way up to that landfall. That's probably a worst case scenario that it gets to 100 miles per hour. Here it is right now though, and yes, satellite imagery isn't particularly convincing when you look at it. There's no apparent eye, but you can see where that eye might be underneath all of those cloud tops, and some decent convection blowing up over the center of the storm there. Northern side looking a little bit on slightly bare near the center, 1 or 2 little gaps there, and it doesn't look particularly symmetrical either. You know, it's a bit of an odd storm, and certainly doesn't look like it's undergoing rapid intensification or anything like that right now. Northern side, a lot of convection bubbling up there as well, but the southern side isn't looking particularly bad. Parts of Honduras will already be in the clear by now, even in terms of the wind speeds, so you know, anywhere east of that convection is probably away from the storm now, but still looking pretty decent on this satellite imagery. Obviously, from what we've gathered from recon, the storm is stronger than it looks, and who knows, it may have 1 or 2 more surprises up its sleeve, but there it is on the infrared enhanced imagery, and now the water vapor imagery as well, where we can usually tell a little bit better where the center of the storm is. A lot of dry air out west over there as well, which will impede the storm, but lots of moisture near the storm center, some decently high cloud tops, probably into the -70s, maybe 1 or 2 -80s there, so it's definitely on the trend upwards, but thankfully it will be halted shortly with its landfall.